Good morning, everyone. It is my favorite weather. I can't wait to get into the shop today and start building the Jeep. We've got a lot of things planned for today and the rest of this weekend in order to get ready for the whole holiday season. Merry Christmas, by the way. What have we got planned for today? Oh, that's bright. Gotta at least put the square tubing slider on the driver's side so I can tie the back end to the four-link stuff. There's some stuff that I gotta do underneath the bed, like the rear bumper, the fuel tank mount, suck-down winch, shock towers, and maybe a couple of other things. This is all to prepare for the roll cage for next year. Having a bit of a lighting crisis right now, so I've got my big rigid light shining in my eyes. I've got both rock slider rectangular tubes welded to the sides and the corners of this cab. Now it's time to work on things underneath this bed, and I'm very excited about that. So first thing we got to do is lift this bed back off and let's get a good look at what's underneath. So now the next thing that I need to do is take these springs off there. And the reason that I want to do that is because everything that I build underneath this bed is keeping in mind that this axle is going to be at full bump at some point. So if we put this at full bump and build everything with it like that, then we know we're not going to run into any clearance issues later on. So next I'm going to put these bump stops / spring retainers that Clayton Off-Road gave me with these brackets, and that way I know that we're getting the full up travel. Okay, so now that I've turned my Jeep into a lowrider, I plan on putting a piece of 2x4 behind the axle so I have something to mount a suck down winch to later, and also the combination of that cross piece and the rear bumper, which will be welded right to the frame, that'll help strengthen up this entire area back here. Before I could do that, I've got to cut off the rest of this old X-brace because that's preventing me from welding to the inside of this. This piece of metal, if I'm not mistaken, is a 2x4. This is 4 inches tall. So if I measure the inside width here, about 38 3/4. So I'm going to cut a piece off of this, 38 3/4. Okay, let's see if I measured this correctly. I did. That's so good that it's a pressure fit. Couldn't be more happy with that. Come on down here, I'm going to show you what else I'm thinking about this particular setup here. So before I weld this piece in, planning on putting a 2,500 pound winch somewhere on this bar, either right above and behind this axle, or off to the side so that the cable can go down through a pulley, through a snatch block, and then back up to this. So I need to go up to the house and grab that little winch so I can hold it up here with its mount and see if I'm gonna have enough room to do that. Here's the little winch that I'm working with. Comes with a couple different things, little electronics and cables and a hook and a controller. This, I'm not really worried about right now. This fair lead, or a little tiny steel cable. Look how cute it is. Suction hook. Here's the mount that I bought. It did not come with. I definitely don't see one in there. Isn't that adorable? You've got this little handle right here, and if you pull that, that's to free spool this. So I'm thinking I can find a way to pull this with a cable from inside the cab, or have some kind of releasing method. But this basically needs to mount on here somewhere. Now, most importantly, what I need to consider is that the top of this frame is where the bottom of the bed sits. And so if I have anything sticking above this, then it's going to contact the bed, and I can't have that. So another cool thing about this is it has this little retention spring plate that holds this spool from unwinding all crazy. This is going to mount on the front of there, and then I'm going to probably bolt two of these bolts straight through this 2x4. That actually doesn't look like a bad spot right there. So the back of this axle is going to have that backbone truss, and so if I do weld a little hook or a strap right here, it'll weld right to the top of that piece. I'm thinking that if I put this offset a little bit, there's more space on this side of the back of this differential. We need to make sure that our shock towers are going to fit before we weld this piece in, so I know how close or far we need to go. Closer to the axle would be better, so if I put it right here, that would be the most efficient. However, that would be right in line with where these shocks are going to go and poke through the bed. So I got to give myself a little bit of room between the 2x4 and the shock. Let me go get those shock towers and we'll see if those fit. I don't know who makes these. Maybe you can tell me in the comments. I just bought them from a guy, so I basically want to make sure that when I mount this, I'll be able to modify them and make them fit enough to where they're sturdy. They can be welded to the rest of the cage. That looks good right there. I can chop these little ears off and weld this to the outside of that, and weld this side to the top of this plate, and it'll all be one strong unit. You know, I like when things work out as if you planned it out, because I didn't. I'm gonna weld this on and we'll come right back. So now that we've got that welded on, I want to be able to mount this plate onto there. When you see where this plate mounts up to like this, the back of this plate is about the same height as the winch itself. So we know that as long as the back of this plate, or in this orientation, it would be the top, as long as that doesn't go above this piece of 2x4, then we know it's going to clear the bed. I'm going to mount it right here. We're going to put some bolts through this entire piece. I'm going to clamp this to the back of here and use these holes as pilot holes to drill all the way through. So this is the original tire winder. So this would be way back here because this truck bed was like 10 feet long. And this hooked up to the little spare tire winch, and you would turn this with a jack handle on the other side and it would let the tire up and down. You've seen those before. But what's nice about it is this, now I have free metal, because that's just a hollow piece of like 5/8 metal. And I can stick those inside there, weld them up, and it'll strengthen up those holes. Yeah, see? We got these three little deals here. I'll put those inside and they'll strengthen up those holes nice and good. That looks inappropriate. Only thing left to do is sand that flat. I will have to get some hardware for that, but that'll mount right about there, right underneath the bed. Come up with a way to either leave this in free spool mode or have a way that I could pull a cable from behind the tire or something, or from inside the cab, and we'll mount there. That takes care of that. So later, probably next year, I'm going to take some tubing and gusset this to the frame in a couple spots, and it'll also be held together by the shock towers. Tune in next week to see how I'm going to put the shock towers on. Who welded this?